the American Conservative Union. And welcome back to both of you to the program. Karine, I'm going to start with you. You listen to these senators. You know what's going on in the background. What does it look like this Gorsuch nomination is headed toward?
I have to say, truer words couldn't have been spoken by Mitch McConnell. He's absolutely right. We are in this country, our democracy is being certainly threatened, I should say. And we have a president who's under investigation. Well, his associates are under investigation, and until that is cleared up, we should figure out what's going on and get to the bottom of it. We should not be allowing a lifetime appointment to the Supreme Court justice. So I totally agree. There is something. It's not just about the nominee. It's about where we are as a country.
But Matt, I'm sorry to interrupt, but it sounds like Leader McConnell is not prepared to slow this thing down.
Not at all. Neil Gorsuch is going to be on the Supreme Court. Everybody knows it. The question is, do they mount this filibuster, and do the rules of the Senate have to be changed to get him on the court? I predict that they won't have to change the rules to get him on the court. He'll get over 50 votes, mostly because...
In other words, you're saying some Democrats will come on board.
I think, or they won't choose to mount a filibuster. Remember, we don't... In modern times, they don't use the filibuster against Supreme Court nominees. This is quite a precedent. Now, it plays into what Harry Reid did in not allowing the 60-vote threshold for nominees of President Barack Obama. So what's happening in the Senate is it's turning into something more like the House, where it just takes a majority vote to get, and of course the Senate only handles nominations, but just a majority vote to get people through. And quite frankly, as a conservative, I'm just fine with that.
Well, it would be a much more partisan place if that happens, right?
Right. Hey, I think if Mitch McConnell brings Gorsuch to the floor and he can't get to 60 votes, hey, there's another nominee named Merrick Garland who waited 293. But he waited 293 days.
He did.
The Republicans didn't have any problem with that. This seat has been open for over a year. Why cannot we not wait to see where this investigation goes?
I think because it has nothing to do with the investigation. It has to do with the fact that that opening, which was the swing seat, happened in relative proximity to the election. And the Republicans made the case that we shouldn't make that decision on that swing justice until the election was decided. The election was decided, and now Donald Trump has picked somebody who we have to all admit performed very well during the hearings, and even the Democrats I have talked to said it would have helped our cause a lot if he seemed to be less sure-footed.
But here's the thing, Merrick Garland was a consensus candidate that Republicans should have been...
So is Neil Gorsuch, though.
No, he's not. He never even answered questions about how he voted when it came to women's rights, when it came to LGBT rights. He actually didn't even answer those questions.
He said that his opinions didn't matter. What mattered is the black letter law.
All right, we're not going to resolve this one this week. We may try at it. We may go at it again. Just quickly, the Intelligence Committee, Matt, Chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Devin Nunes, a lot of controversy, questions about whether he can be a credible leader for that investigation. Where do you see that going? I mean, today, he and other Republicans in the House and even Republicans in the Senate are saying this is going to stay as it is.
My hat's off to Democrats. I think they're doing a good job of trying to make it about Devin Nunes and about the judgments he's made as chairman. I've talked to the chairman and his team over the course of the last days and weeks, and the information that he believes that he's uncovered does not relate to Russia. The reason why he went to the White House does not relate to Russia, but it does relate to the fact that he's got more witnesses who have come forward to say that during the ending days of the Obama administration, or ending weeks and months, that there was more surveillance that captured even more conversations of Team Trump. This is all going to come out. We're going to see it publicly, and the American people are going to be faced with this question about, is this surveillance power that a president has, is it too broad?
So this sounds like, Karine, something that's just going to get bigger.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it's just going to get bigger. Look, from historically, both the House and the Senate, when it comes to Intelligence Committee, it behaves above board, outside of politics, which is the beauty of these two committees. But we haven't seen that from this chair. He continuously does things that's troubling, and I'm not just saying this as a progressive. You had Senator McCain say, hey, his behavior last week was troubling. That you cannot trust what's going on. They've lost their credibility, the House Intel Committee.
Good old Senator McCain.
That's questionable. I mean,
we can always him to criticize his own team. He's pretty good at that, I have to say.
Hey,
Well,
he's pretty credible as well.
All right, two other things I want to quickly ask you both. It's a lot, I know, to cram in, but Karine, health care, the attempt to repeal and replace didn't come up for a vote. Republicans seem to have regrouped. Do you think Democrats are prepared to work with the president on this? What do you see?
I can't imagine that's going to happen, and I'll tell you why. What they put forth, 20 days ago now, was very draconian. It was pretty unbelievable that they had 7 years, and this is what they came up with, which is a bill that took health care away from tens of millions of people, raised costs for the most vulnerable, including seniors. And so I can't imagine that. What are they going to come up with? Why should we trust them when they had years to put something forth that would be appeasing, or why not just work with the Democrats and say, hey, we know that Obamacare needs fixes. Let's work with you guys.
Where do you see it going?
Well, I think you make a lot of good points there. We did run around the country for 6 or 7 years and said Obamacare was an abomination and we have a replacement, but we look bad when the first attempt to have a repeal and replace, we stumbled and couldn't get the votes, and I don't even think they were that close to getting the votes. Look, I think when you have a mandate in Obamacare that says you must get health insurance, and then when you take the mandate away, there's no question there will be people, it's called freedom, who will choose, as a young man, I didn't get health insurance. People have the right to make that choice.
Just quickly, Matt, do you think the Republicans will try again?
I do. I think the White House is already working to try to get something, and they realize, Judy, we cannot credibly go back to the voters next November without having a real vigorous replacement of Obamacare.
In less than 30 seconds, the announcement by the president's daughter, Matt and Karine, that she will be an unpaid federal government employee with an office in the White House.
Right.
We now have the president's daughter and son-in-law with offices in the West Wing. Unusual? What should we...
It's unusual. Let's all be honest. Unconventional. But here's what I've learned in working for a president. Presidents will seek out the advice that they feel like they need to make the tough calls. And I think it's clear with President Trump, his family is very important to him as he determines positions on issues. And I think it's very candid that he wants her near him to talk about these things.
I think it plays into the story of nepotism and what are the ethics around all of this. And it's troubling. I think it's incredibly troubling, and it's going to be problematic for him down the road.
Her lawyer is a Democrat, Jamie Garelick, and there's no legal question. But there's a question about the politics of it.
But I understand that. Well, the optics are certainly bad, but the only reason we heard an announcement of what her position is going to be is because they were responding to watchdogs saying, hey, this doesn't look good.
And now she says she will be a formal government employee subject to ethics rules.
And she's a Democrat. So for all those Democrats who are complaining, you might like the fact that she's sitting there.
Well, I think she's an enabler.
Thank you both. Karine Jean-Pierre, Matt